In this lesson, we'll focus our attention on further working with images and pixels, and now we'll get into the topic of applying masks. And so to start, we'll first make a 3 by 3 pixel image, and we'll denote our red layer for our image here. And so for this, we've declared the appropriate components for our layer, values of 255, 0, 0, 255, 255, 0, 255, 128, and 0. And then we'll have our components for the green layer, where we're going to put in appropriate values of 0 and 255 and 0, and then 0, 255 and 255, and then 255, 128, and 0 for our red layer, for our green layer. And then for our blue layer, we're going to put in values of 0, 0, 255, 255, 0, and 255, 255, 128, and 0. And so we've done this for the 3 layers for our 3 by 3 pixel image. And you'll note for 255, for the first pixel, we have values of 255, 0, and 0. So that means that it is all red. And then for the second pixel, we have values of 0, 255, and 0. So that means that it is going to be all green. And then we have values for our third pixel in the upper right of 0, 0, and 255. That means that it is all blue. And so that's represented here with our image, where we have all red, all green, and all blue for the first row of our 3 by 3 image. Then for the second row, we have values of 255 in red and 255 in blue. And that kind of balance those colors out to a pink color. Then we have values of 255, 255, and 0 for our second pixel on the second row. And that's going to be a combination of red and green, which gives us yellow. And then we have our values for 0, 255, and 255. And that is going to give us the value of this kind of teal sea, kind of sea green or sea blue color. And then the same goes for our last row, where we have two values of 255, 255, and 255, which is going to be all white. And then we have values of 128, 128, and 128, which is going to give us that gray shade. And then we have 0 for all values of RGB for our third pixel, which is going to give us black. And so this represents how we were able to build out our pixel image. And so we use the image command to display it here. And so now what we want to do is we will make an appropriate mask. And so we're going to make a 2D mask by adding our desired RGB pixel for specific ranges. And so for our image, we're going to have, for all of the rows and columns for red that are equal to 255, and all of the columns of 2 that are equal to 0, and all of the columns in our blue that are equal to 0. So we want to turn this 2D mask into a 3D mask by copying it to each of our RGB layers. And so the mask that we have here is what we have, the logical, only the first pixel is going to be represented as true. And so now we'll copy all of these components into our mask. And so for M3 for the red, we'll apply it, and we'll apply it for our green layer, and then we'll also apply it for our blue layer as well. And so all of those are applied here. And here what we see is we have a logicals of 1 only represented in cell 1, 1. And so this is representing our array. And now what we can do is we can concatenate it in a 3rd dimension. And so this will make, then what we'll do is we'll make a color plate that is the same size as the image. And so now we have expanded it using RCL for our image, the size of that image. So we have our yellow for row 1 to R, for column 1 to C, and then unit will mask it, will cast it to a RBG range of 255, and we'll do the same for our green layer, and we'll do the same for our blue layer. And so this results with us having a image that we have here, and then we're also able to mask it to our original image as well. And so when we go to show the image, this is what we have, where we have our colors that have been included to be yellow for our spaces where red was present. And so let's consider if we want to mask an image of a larger size. So if we were to load the image house.jpg, that should be in our working directory folder. So you'll want to make sure that it is present here. And so we'll load the image, and we want to create a new image. And we are going to get the rows, columns, and color for our new image for house. Now what we want to do is make use of nested loops in order to turn certain pixels in our loop, in our image, yellow. So for R, from 1 to all of the rows, for C, for 1 to all of the columns, we'll create our new values for PR, PG, and PB for green. And so we'll bring in for the values for R, for C, and then each of our layers. And so what we say, if PR is less than 100 and PG is less than 100 and PB is greater than 225, then we're going to change our target color. It's going to be 255, 255, and 0. And then that will continue. And if PR is greater than 225 and PG is less than 100 and PB is less than 100, then we're going to set the new values to be 255 for our red, green, and blue layers. And so now, once we have that complete, our new image now has changed the color. The red has become white, and our blue door has become a yellow door. And so that allows for us to use a nested loop to alter an image iteratively. And so now we're also able to alter an image using a mask as well. And so let's consider that we have our image that we're going to make use of. And so we want to create a 2D mask. So we're going to do for values where our red values are less than 100, our green values are less than 100, and our blue values are greater than 225. So we will create a mask using these values, and we'll concatenate them together. And now we're going to apply our color palette based off of the dimensions that we've obtained. So we'll get the size, the rows and columns, and the colors for our image. And we're going to set them equal to 255, 255, and 0, and apply an appropriate yellow mask here. And then once we've applied everything and executed, we're able to apply another mask here where we've changed our door of the original image to yellow. So now let's consider another neat trick that we can use with Matlab, in that we want to read in a green screen and change the background. And so what we'll want to do is we will load our initial image, which is going to be our Sesame Street gang here. And so we've loaded that, and we've gotten the rows and columns for this image. And then we're going to create a new image for display, and that is what we have here. And now what we want to do is read in a background file. And so for our file, we'll have an image of London. And I believe this is the London Eye. I actually visited this location a few years ago. And so we're going to resize the background image with appropriate rows and columns. And so now what we want to do is turn our green pixels to the color of the corresponding pixel in our image. And so what we do here is we will have a nested loop that is going to go through, create the new values for each of our layers for row and column. And then what we do is we apply, using the condition, if PR equals 0 and PG equals 255 and PB equals 0, that's going to give us our target color of green. We are going to replace it with each pixel for our background image, to the point where all of this green is going to be the background of our London background. And in doing this, we create our new image that allows for us to place the Sesame Street gang in our London Eye background view. Now we're also able to apply appropriate masking as well. And so if we were to reload our image, again, we've reloaded our image. And now we want to apply a 2D mask. And so for the mask, we're going to apply, for our red values, we're going to get a mask. So if the red values are equal to 0, the blue values equal to 255, and the green values equal 0, we're going to create a logical mask for that. And then we are going to concatenate that to create our 3D mask. And so next we'll need to get the rows and the columns for our crew image. And then we're going to read in the London background again. And we'll resize it appropriately. And so we'll display our new background image. It'll be the same dimensions again as the crew image that we've imported. So now we apply the mask in the background that is able to show the same background for our crew image as well. And so we can apply, we can use nested loops to change the color of a background image as well. And we are also able to change the background using appropriate masking as well. So these are some tips that can be considered when you're trying to manipulate the background of images using either loops to change the pixel colors for each pixel in the image, or you can apply an appropriate mask that you can use as well. And so when taking this into consideration, you just want to remember that when we're using a mask, we're going to make sure that we are involving some set of pixels in an image in a range and some other background value. So what we're doing is essentially we're masking the image to intensify the pixel values that are 0 or others that are non-zero. So in this case, wherever you have that mask created, you are able to make appropriate changes to the background as needed.